Alright, hello. Very quick video. I don't want to make this too laborious with all the number jumps and everything. So I just thought I'd pick out a couple of interesting things to show you for Madonna for the 17th of May. We're on the 16th of May right now, which coincidentally is Pierce Brosnan's birthday. So this is kind of interesting, again, tying back with Madonna being in Die Another Day with Pierce Brosnan, and the whole thing with GoldenEye as well. Okay, with Pierce Brosnan and the dam jump. Now, what have I got here though? Okay, so I'm looking at 517 because there were several little references to 517. I'm not going to go into every single one right now. Like I said, I just want to keep the video short, and if something happens, then I'll do the rest of the stuff, because there's no point in just, like a lot of my videos lately, is just regurgitating the same stuff over and over again, and it's just amazing just how you can fit these numbers in with a multitude of dates. Anyway, what is interesting right now is this is Elvis's birthday, okay, right here, 1/8/35, and through to tomorrow's date is, or 517 is 33,003 days. So we've got all the threes. Okay, now what is fascinating about this is that, why is Elvis important with Madonna? Well, Elvis died back in 1977 on Madonna's birthday, okay, 8/16/1977, when he was 42 years old. But what was interesting is Madonna was 19 years old, which is quite interesting with the last video that I just showed you with Marty with the 1/9 references. Okay, so we've got this interesting connection with Madonna and the 1/9. Okay, now this is interesting. So what? Okay, could we see the resurrection? You know, is this like the resurrection? If we have the death of Madonna on this date, does that then give us the resurrection of Elvis on, 333 essentially? Yeah, the 33 resurrection number for Elvis. Okay, so potentially, yeah, it's a pretty good date. I can pretty much tie Madonna into most days, but this is a pretty good one. The fact that it ties in with Elvis really well. What I want to show you something though. This is just something random. Into the Groove, the song, okay, by Madonna. Why is this song interesting? Because it's in the film Desperately Seeking Susan, okay, and in the film there's this twinism thing going on, okay, with her and Rosanna Arquette here, okay. And what is very interesting about this film, if you've seen the film, you'll know that there's a jacket in this film with the Eye of Providence on the back of it. Okay, the thing that is on the dollar bill, yeah, the pyramid, which is on the, and they switch this jacket basically. Okay, and this is how they get kind of that and some amnesia. I'll say deja vu, some amnesia, and these two switch places essentially. Okay. So what is interesting about this is the release date of the song, okay, because it's July 15th, and if we read that number backwards, it's 517, and you could get 517 out of that backwards. Notice that it's 444, yeah. 44 is a midpoint balance number. It's at the center of what would I say? It's, again, if you go back to some of my Die Another Day decodes, this number, the 44, is referenced with certain numbers on the tank and the train via one of my decode charts. Okay, the Queen's Cross. So the 44 is at the heart of the Queen's Cross. Yeah. So this is a balance point, or a beginning, a reset point, if you like. Okay, a beginning and end point. Hence, uh, the 44 kill number. Okay, a reset point. Okay, what did I want to say about this? So so we could potentially have the 17th of May referenced here with that July release date. Well, if we run that, let's run a number jump now through from that date through to our day, uh, which is going to end up, that's already that day today now, it's the 17th now. So if I run that number jump through, okay, 7:15:85 through to 5:17:25, we get this number here, 14,551. Okay, nothing spectacularly interesting about any of that, but if we click on it, now that made that a lot more interesting, didn't it? Because we've got the 1705th prime, so we've got the 175, we've got numbers that reference back to the 17th of May popping up as the prime number here with this number jump. So this number jump is referencing back to this day again. So that I just thought it was interesting. I mean, what else, does it mean something's going to happen to on this today? Who knows, I've got some stuff for tomorrow. Obviously, let's just drop back to this because obviously this number here with Elvis applies to tomorrow. Okay, 518. 518. Hang on, let's click that on so you can see. So if we keep the 333 going here, 518 becomes very interesting, and of course 815 in reverse. Again, this would be one day before 8/16, Madonna's birthday, and you can jump around and you can look at the calendar for the 17th. We're in May here. No, that's June. May the 17th. Lo and behold, guess what? Why this is probably so important to Madonna, because this is the twin date for her birthday. 137, the ear wound. In the film, Desperately Seeking Susan, there is a reference to the earrings in the film. So this is kind of interesting with Donald Trump's earshot. Okay, so 137228. If we come to her birthday, the other side of the year. Okay, where are we? 16th, 228, 137. So is that the reason why that date's interesting? Just because it ties back to her birthday? Who the hell knows? But anyway, you can see how we're always going around in circles with this stuff. What else do I want to say about this? Did I have another number jump in here? Oh, this was again Rosanna Arquette's birthday through to this particular day. I thought it might be interesting to just have a quick look at that. The end date included here. And if we click on that, 2672, the 2672nd, 72nd, I can't speak, prime. Okay, so this is interesting with the 2672 because 26, of course, is a big gematria number. 2662 is a big gematria number for Madonna, and the 127 also is. I don't know if there's anything else I've got to show you here with this, to be quite honest. I got some other stuff we could potentially just whiz to. Let me show you something else. Let's do the dartboard real quick because this ties into the dartboard. If you can follow my cursor here, you'll see that right here is 517, which is fascinating. And if we go and do a cross with 517, so if you put a perfect cross in with the 517 being the sort of one part of the cross, and then we come perpendicular to that we come with the 813. If we read that number back, 318 is Princess Di's death date. So this is Die Another Day, crossing with this particular number. You'll know if you've watched my channel, I go on about Die Another Day quite a bit. But you actually, what's it? also interesting about this is if you look at this 517, you'll notice that the 122 is right adjacent to it in a straight line here. So Die Another Day, very fascinating because it's right next door to the 122 that is the sort of major numerology release date for Die Another Day. Okay, and note that the 122 actually crosses with 164, 1640 Riverside Drive, who is Doc. Yeah. So I mean, you go around in circles here with this stuff. We're putting crosses in here. I mean, it's so interesting to put just crosses in here. You come up with some fairly crazy stuff. What else was I going to mention? Oh, let's just mention while we're on the topic of these numbers coming right here. Look, here is the 915 right here. Okay, here's 915. So read it backwards, 519, and it's crossing with, yes, 718 or 817 or 187. So whichever way you want to put those numbers around. But again, the murder, death, kill number 187, quite fascinating that it's going across with the 519. And obviously 187 is Washington, gematria. 187 ties to the murder, death, kill. What else does that tie to? This ties to Madonna heavily, and actually it ties into that film Desperately Seeking Susan. Let me explain why. Because Madonna married Sean Penn, okay, back in the day. Okay, so I'm going to talk through a lot of stuff here. I'm probably making this video way too long, but his birthday is 8/17. Okay, the day after Madonna's. Okay, which is again fascinating that is Madonna's birthday right here, and then tying in next to this is the 8/17 coming across here, right? Now, in Desperately Seeking Susan, I'm pretty sure his name's Jimmy. Madonna's boyfriend is Jimmy, I think. Don't quote me though. His birthday is the 17th of August. I'm pretty sure the actor's birthday is the 17th of August. Can't remember what year. He's older than Sean Penn though. But that I thought was fascinating that they went to the trouble of, maybe they didn't go to the trouble of picking someone. Just coincidence. Maybe just coincidence. But they went to the trouble of picking somebody, an actor with the same birthday as Sean Penn. Fascinating stuff. What did I want to mention about that? Also, if you've been watching the channel, you'll know that I did a decode with the 519 to do with Madonna's Bad Girl video, and in that we have Christopher Walken, who happened to be in a film with Sean Penn, and Madonna did a song for it. What the hell was the song called? I can't remember. But anyway, Christopher Walken in the Bad Girl video, the clock starts running. He's got this pocket watch, and the clock starts running at 5:19. Okay, and that indicates maybe Madonna's death date, or is it a 5:19? Because it's quite blurred at the start of that. It could potentially be 5:17, but if it was the 5:19 that's on the clock, obviously that ties. I mean, all this stuff ties back together. Again, Christopher Walken was in Pulp Fiction. Christopher Walken had the gold watch up his backside in the film, okay, for Butch, held onto the gold watch for Butch up his butt, okay. Again, that's a reference to the sun being in the black hole, being in the abyss, in the Matrix, and then Christopher Walken, the Christ Walker, delivers Butch the gold watch, and Butch has to keep a hold of the gold watch. The gold watch is important. The gold watch is Christ, so to speak. Yeah, it's the sun. Okay, it's the reference to the physical world where natural law resides. Okay. Oh dear. Anyway, the 519 is there, you know, and that thing, and what was that song called? Anyway, the song she does for the film, which is At Close Range. Um, oh, the name escapes me for some reason. I want to listen to that thing so many times as well. Um, anyway, she in her tour video, in her tour that she just did, the celebration tour, she actually changed the length of that song to 519, and in the tour itself, they did some sort of, there was a lot of Hoover Dam symbolism. Okay, when they did all their light shows and everything, and all their pictures of people remembering people that had died. Again, this idea of death surrounding the 519. So it's kind of interesting for Madonna. I think in the artwork for that as well, they also had a target. Okay, so this is interesting with this whole thing. I guess while I'm here, I'm going to just talk again about, because obviously the 19th is an interesting date, because I just showed you uh, this spot in Back to the Future with the 1-9 here. Okay, and Marty's just read the newspaper back in 1955, and what he sees is the date, yeah, the November the 5th date when time travel is invented by Doc. And again, 519, and also don't forget that the 51 there's this idea of Mayday and the maypole. Okay, and again with the maypole, and we can just jump back to the Space Needle here really quickly, because this 519 thing's bugging me with the Space Needle and with Madonna, and let me show you why. Let me do a little doodle here so you can understand this. Okay, so we've got the 519 referenced here. We've also got, you know, a rudimentary 1-5 in here, sort of referenced as well with the numbers. Let me show you why Mayday is really important with this. So I got my color on. This thing looks like this. Okay, hang on. Let's start from the beginning here. Look, this is the 1-9, so you can just see that real quick. Okay, because they put Marty in this scene, you know, where he's sort of just having a realization here, and this is what's either side of him here. Okay. But let's look at this, right? This looks like an upside down Space Needle, if you've ever seen the Space Needle. Now, we're just talking about the dartboard, and if you look at the bottom side of the top of the Space Needle, it has the segments. I mean, it doesn't look just like a dartboard, but there's this idea of a dartboard there, a bullseye, and then you've got 3 legs. I could just draw it. You know, you've got the top here that looks like the board, and then there's the 3 legs coming through like 3 darts hitting into the board. You know, use 3 darts when you're playing darts. Okay. Anyway, what is fascinating about this? Well, let me show you this as well. So if anybody wants to relay this to Cody and Jurassic Liars, I've relayed this to Jurassic Liars a long time ago. I don't think he was that impressed, but Cody might like it. If you look at the dartboard, you're talking about the bottom of the Space Needle here, the flux capacitor, and this is the point of insertion here. Okay, the vesica Pisces, if you like, right here. Again, those 3 legs coming up, the 3 darts, but if we put a perfect cross in the dartboard, right, you'll see that 611, this is Jurassic Liar's date for the Space Needle, runs, you know, straight across here, and then up and down we have 203. Now, what is fascinating about 611, yeah, the 11th of June, is that there is 203 days left in the year on that particular date. Okay, Yeah. What is it? 162 days gone, and then 203 left. Oh, that thing. Okay. So this is fascinating that the perfect cross right here is right here. Yeah. So that is one thing that's fascinating. Again, what I was just saying with the 519 with its connection back to Washington. Yeah, Washington State. Yeah, up there. Seattle. Okay. What else was there going on? So the 187 is fascinating here. Also, the fact that we are on 521 now, so it's talking about 519, but 521 is at the top of the dartboard here. Okay, so they're like the crown of the dartboard right here. Kind of interesting as well. A Christmas reference as well with the numerology, but again, May the 21st is coming up for, it's another hot date for something to do with, the Space Needle, maybe. Okay, anyway, yeah, so you can see the 611 and the 203. That's really important there. Like I said, I've relayed that to JL before, and I might relay that. I'll try and relay that to Cody as well at some point, but what. Anyway, this looks like a Space Needle that is inverted, or if the ring was at the top here, it fell down and now it's at the bottom. Okay, so this is the idea of the phallic symbol going into this thing. Yeah. Okay. Notice that the barber shop itself is in this sort of pink color, and I got it it's really blurry here, so it does look almost like a pair of pink lips there, like almost like referencing the Vesica Pisces, if you like. But also the bar, again, one bar and another bar. Yeah, the bar, the thing you go into. Okay, that system, the Vesica Pisces, the matrix. Okay, the bar. Yeah. What runs the legal system? The bar. Yeah. What runs the monetary system? The bar, the bank, the bar. Okay. This is the thing that, yeah, when you're in prison, you're behind the. I hate to point out the obvious stuff, but you're behind the bars. Yeah, you're contained. The bar. Yeah. What happened on 9/11? Yeah, that bar and that bar. Yeah, that's what we're in right now. That whole episode of the bar. Yeah. We're in 9/11 now. We're in the Matrix, right? Anyway, what's interesting about this is note the color they've used as well with the blue here. So the Space Needle, this idea of the metaphysical somewhat. And again, I was, talking about the arrow that needs to be shot. And they use the red color, which is the physical, with the arrow on the Western Auto sign at the bottom here. It's got the arrow. So, there we go. Number of man. And that is referenced there with the arrow. So we've got the arrow. I don't know. Anyway, where was I even going with this now? I can't even remember. But there's another 19, and Madonna, at being the age of 19 when Elvis died, kind of fascinating, isn't it? And I think there was something. I don't know if I heard that from Jurassic Liars or somewhere else. That I probably did hear it from JL. That the spirit of. She said that I don't know if it was something to do with the spirit of Elvis or something, or she felt the spirit of Elvis. Oh, who knows? But it was something weird little story like that as well, to do with Madonna and Elvis. But this is what I was going to also show you. The reason why. So we're talking about the Space Needle here, right? And that being like a May reference, something happening in May, because the Space Needle itself, if you've ever looked at a maypole, normally there's just a straight stick, right? When we're talking about May Day sits out, yeah. They're usually a straight stick, but a pole, and usually there's a little round circle at the top. On many maypoles, there's a little round circle at the top, and then of course they attach, a bunch of ribbons off of there, and you do your little dance, and this thing gets tied up with ribbon, yeah, like this. Now, the Space Needle itself is a pole with a bloody circle at the top, right? But let's think about this for 1 second. This is the barber shop. Now, if you look, it's really blurry, but if you look down here, this is the barber pole. Yeah, a May reference, a May Day reference, because it's a pole like this with a circle at the top. It's got the light at the top, and you've seen a barber pole before, haven't you? It's usually a white colored thing, and then it has that on it, spiraling around. Okay, and of course there they've got this light on the top here. Okay, similar, very similar symbolism. I just thought it was interesting that maybe that would point towards a May date for the Space Needle. But again, it's still work. 611 that JL talks about is 5 months and 11 days into the year. 511 again. What do we just see when time travel was invented? 511. Okay, the Space Needle, yeah, which is the flux capacitor, not the flux, it's the plutonium chamber. I hope I didn't call that the flux capacitor earlier. It's the plutonium chamber at the top, on the back of the DeLorean. Yeah, I've got a funny feeling. And you'll notice as well when it goes to Mr. Fusion, yeah, that the plutonium chamber that is like this now has that bit sticking up on. Well, it kind of sticks at an angle. Okay, like this symbolism here, right? Fusion, the fusion. Yeah, what happens when an atomic device goes off? Fusion. Okay, or connections back to nuclear power anyway. Fusion. I think I'm going to leave it there because I've lost my train of thought with this whole thing about what I was really trying to say. Yeah, it's just well interesting. I think that's it. Yeah. So 517, just showed you some stuff for 517. I've got some more. Well, why the hell? Why don't we just do that while we're here, Dan? Hang on, what have I got here? I had. Oh, what am I doing? I want to go to. I'm trying to think what I want to actually do here. No, I want to be on. Hang on a minute. Let's do this. Sorry, I'm just. I don't want what the hell I'm doing here. Let's go to this. I'll just show you something. 157 in here, right? Okay. Let me show you. 157. If you've seen the start of Back to the Future, you'll know that when the speaker blows up, the numbers that are on the speaker. This is one of the numbers that's on the speaker, which is it's the CRM 114 that's on the speaker. Okay, so here's our 114 in reverse. Okay, and note that the cross reference is 312, which is nice because that's the reverse of 213, the start of Lucas numbers. Now, what is actually really fascinating is what's interesting about that number there is that if I were to total up all these numbers across here in the pyro, okay, what's our total that we get to, right? Well, our total is this number here minus 1. So you just jump over a row, and I know what the total will be to that point. It will be 1075. Okay. So again, we can just get rid of the 0. We can just read that now. 17th of May, okay, to the 411 reference point here, which ties back in with this number here, which again, if we were to look, the cross reference is 314. Oh, it's a pi cross reference number, 314. The pi reference number here. Okay, well, that's well interesting, yeah. And also the fact that if we look at what's before this now, okay, the 254th day of the year, of course, was 9/11. So this is quite interesting with this tie backwards and forwards between these two adjacent numbers here and this potential date of the 17th of May. I don't know what else to say about it. It's just, you can do this all day long kind of with this chart, but when something does pop up that happens, you can look in the chart and it makes sense, but I don't know what to say. You can pick out a lot of these kind of ideas day to day with this thing, okay? And again, when we're dealing with pi numbers again, let me just point this out. Our next numbers in the row here, 591, right? And then our next numbers, well, we're kind of picking and choosing, but 423, which again is St. George's Day. So 591 here, and then moving into St. George's Day, and we've got references to pi. So, I tell you something else that's interesting with this reference to pi is that 611, the other side of the twin date for 611 is 722. And of course, as we all know, 22 divided by 7 gives us the approximation for pi. So, see how this works? And again, the Space Needle is, got all these sections on like a pie. Yeah. I feel like there was something else to mention. Oh, another little thing to mention is, I can't remember what year that was that they knocked the Space Needle down, but if you recall, in Mars Attacks, I say knock the Space Needle down, they have the Martians come down, and basically in the film they have the demolition of the Landmark Hotel, which I believe is in the backdrop of one of Elvis's films. What's the one he does in? He does a film in Vegas. What's the one where he's a race car driver? I cannot remember. Anyway, it don't matter. 611. That's 611. 7/11 is the date when they knocked that down. The 7th of November. Can't remember the year. Kind of, again, when you start looking at these numbers, it's kind of fascinating because they have, again, they connect this back. That also connects back with Donald Trump. So the Landmark Hotel, which is the lookalike for the Space Needle in Vegas that they knocked down, 7/11. Now, we all know that Donald Trump goes on about 9/11 being 7/11. In fact, it's one of the reasons why I actually started even looking at this stuff, in this chart, so to speak, was basically because of Donald Trump saying that. That's part of the reason, because I noticed that there was 7/11 in the Lucas numbers here. And so, and I'll show you something else here in just a second to do with the Space Needle and the 6/11. But the 7/11, when they knock that thing down, we've got, who am I thinking? Jack Nicholson is playing, I can't remember what the guy's name is, but he's a businessman, and they're up in the Space Needle, so Landmark Hotel, so to speak, when that thing falls down. Now, Jack Nicholson in the film is also playing the president. So there's this interesting tie backwards and forwards between the president, Jack Nicholson, and the Landmark Hotel coming down. And then you can tie Jack Nicholson back with another famous hotel in The Shining. Okay, and then we can tie back to the Hoover Dam and the River of Blood and the Colorado River, the dam breaking open with the elevator, the levee, the elevator. Oh, geez, I mean, crazy. But anyway, let me just show you something, because um, I I caught a bit of JL and Cody speaking about the Space Needle and that, and they were talking about 611 and the ear wound. Now, don't forget, when that happened on the 24-hour clock, it was 1811. Okay, when the ear wound happened, 1811, center of the table. This is what's important about these numbers. This is the center. Mickey Mouse's birthday. Yeah, he's got two great big ears, doesn't he? Mickey Mouse. Mickey Mouse's birthday. I think I'm going to leave it there. I can't think there was anything else I really wanted to mention. Oh, I will mention this as well. Get rid of some of this scribble a second. Let me just show you something. Oh dear. So the tie back with, all this stuff ties together. Once you look at this chart, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That's as far back as I can go. The top of the dartboard. Yeah, that number is right at the top of the dartboard. Now, what's the cross reference for that number? 213. Okay, now don't forget that 213 is on the dollar bill. Okay, that's our jump from 9/11, 155 days, it's on the dollar bill, through to 213. Yeah, to the start of the cycle again. Okay. Maybe I should, let me just show you one. Well, actually, I'll save it for another video. Okay, you'll see the next video comes up and I'll show you something else to do with this 19. It's something that I've shown before. We'll just look at the dollar bill in it. I'm gonna leave it there. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. I know I've forgotten something, but I'm gonna leave it there. That jacket. Let me just remind people as well. That jacket there that they have, when you do your, well, let me do it in another video, because it's actually, yeah, it's kind of more to it than I want to do right now. Okay, I'm just going to call it a day on this one, right? Okay, notice what's on side B here, a whole bunch of stuff. Who's that girl? But super interesting anyway. Into the groove. Into the groove. What would I say? Think about the Space Needle. Yeah, the two lips of the vagina is the groove, the same as the big O. Yeah, which forms the, is the entranceway, the Vesica Pisces, the 153, the fish. Into the groove. Into the groove. Yeah, going into the groove. So that would be the ring falling down. Okay, I got to call it a day. All right. Maybe I'll do the dollar bill one next, or maybe I'll do it tomorrow night. I don't know if I'm getting tired. All right, thanks for watching. All right, cheers. Right, bye.